Ever had one of those days where everything goes wrong? For Richard, a high-flying CEO, it started with a sputtering engine on the busiest highway. His prized vintage car, a symbol of his success, coughed and died right in the middle of morning rush hour. Frustrated and fuming, he managed to coast to the shoulder. His $1,000 suit was already feeling tight with rage. He yanked out his phone and frantically searched for the nearest auto shop. The first one he called was Quick Fix Auto, a small, independent garage just a couple of miles away. The tow truck arrived, driven by a cheerful young guy who seemed unfazed by Richard's thunderous expression. At the garage, a man emerged from beneath a car, wiping greasy hands on a rag. He was tall, with kind eyes and a warm smile that didn't quite reach Richard. This was David, the owner and head mechanic. "What seems to be the problem?" David asked, his voice calm and steady. Richard, barely looking at him, just pointed at his car. "It's the engine. It just died. Can you fix it or not? Have an important meeting." His tone was sharp, dismissive. David nodded, his smile finally fading. "I'll take a look. Might take a while to diagnose." Richard scoffed. "A while? Look, I don't have time for this. Just tell me if you're capable. I need someone who knows what they're doing." He sized David up, his gaze lingering on his dark skin and the simple, oil-stained overalls. "This isn't some junkyard, right?" The insult hung in the air, thick and unpleasant. David's jaw tightened for a fraction of a second, but his voice remained professional. "I've been working on cars for 20 years, sir. I'll do my best." Richard just grunted and retreated to the dingy waiting area, pacing and muttering about incompetence. He felt superior, annoyed that his fate was in the hands of someone he'd already written off. He pulled out his phone to reschedule his meeting, his anger bubbling. He was Richard Sterling, a titan of industry. He didn't wait for anyone. An hour passed, then another. Richard grew more and more agitated. He stormed back into the garage. "What's taking so long? Could have built a new car by now."
David was leaning over the open hood, his expression one of deep concentration.
He didn't look up immediately. "It's a classic model, sir. The parts are delicate. It's the fuel pump. But it's not a standard replacement. Looks like it needs a custom fix." Richard rolled his eyes. "Custom fix? That sounds expensive. Are you trying to rip me off?" David finally straightened up and turned to face Richard, his calm demeanor finally cracking. "Sir, with all due respect, I'm trying to save your engine from permanent damage. I could slap a temporary fix on it and send you on your way, but it would fail again in a week. I do things the right way." His words were firm, carrying the weight of his experience. But Richard didn't hear the expertise. He only heard a challenge to his authority. "The right way? Just get it done. Have bigger things to worry about than your process." He went back to the waiting room, fuming. To kill time, he decided to prep for his rescheduled meeting. It was a massive deal. Potential partnership with a new tech firm that had developed a revolutionary logistics algorithm. The founder was a bit of a mystery, a genius who came from humble beginnings. Richard opened his laptop and pulled up the founder's profile to refresh his memory. The name on the screen was David Chen. He scrolled down to the photo. His blood ran cold. The face smiling back at him from the screen was the same one he had just insulted. The greasy mechanic in the other room was the tech mogul he was desperate to impress. It couldn't be. He checked again. David Chen, founder of Innovate Logistics, hobbyist classic car restorer. It was him. The garage, Quick Fix Auto, was his passion project, a way to stay grounded and work with his hands. Richard's arrogance evaporated, replaced by a tidal wave of shame. He had treated this brilliant man, this key to his company's future, like dirt. He had judged him based on his appearance, his clothes, his race. He felt sick to his stomach. The world suddenly tilted on its axis. All his life, he had built his empire by being ruthless, by seeing people as pawns in his game. Now, he was face to face with the consequences of his prejudice. He slowly stood up, his legs feeling like lead, and walked back into the garage. David was carefully fitting a small, intricate part into the engine. He looked up as Richard approached, his expression wary. Richard swallowed his pride, the hardest thing he'd ever had to do. "Mr. Chen," he started, his voice barely a whisper. David raised an eyebrow. "It's just David here." "David," Richard corrected himself, his voice shaking slightly. I am so sorry. I've been an arrogant fool." The way I spoke to you, the way I treated you, it was inexcusable. I had no right. He looked David straight in the eye, letting his genuine remorse show. I judged you. And I was completely, horribly wrong. David watched him for a long moment, his face unreadable. He then wiped his hands on his rag and leaned against the workbench. Apology accepted, Mr. Sterling. But tell me, would you be saying this if you didn't know who I was? The question hit Richard like a physical blow. He opened his mouth to protest, to say yes, but he couldn't. The honest answer was no. If David had just been a mechanic, Richard would have paid the bill, left a bad review, and never thought of him again. No, Richard admitted, the word tasting like ash. Oh, I wouldn't have. And that's what I'm most ashamed of. That moment of raw honesty seemed to change something in the room. David's stern expression softened. Honesty? That's a start, he said. Your car's almost ready. The fuel pump is a tricky one, but I managed to rebuild it. Should run better than before. He paused and added, you know, my father taught me how to fix cars in a garage a lot smaller than this one. He told me you can't judge an engine by the rust on the hood. The same is true for people. Richard just nodded, speechless. David finished his work, closed the hood, and started the engine. It purred to life, a smooth, powerful hum. The sound was a testament to David's skill and care, the same care Richard had dismissed. David handed him the keys. No charge, he said simply. Richard protested. No, I have to pay you. For your time, for the parts. David shook his head. Consider it a lesson. Sometimes the most valuable things in life are free. He then looked at Richard, a hint of a smile returning to his face. About our meeting tomorrow. Let's still have it. But come to my office this time, and Mr. Sterling, try to be on time. With that, he turned and walked back to his next project, leaving Richard standing by his perfectly running car, a profoundly changed man. Richard drove away from the garage not just with a fixed car, but with a fixed perspective. He had been so focused on climbing the ladder of success that he forgot to look at the people he stepped on along the way. David didn't just fix his engine. He reset his moral compass. The encounter taught him that a person's worth isn't defined by their suit, their job title, or the color of their skin, but by their character, their skill, and the quiet dignity with which they conduct themselves. It was a lesson he would never forget. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content that makes you think, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. I'll see you next time.